Yes.
Okay.
Okay, are we ready?
Smile.
Dave?
Not yet. Wait, wait until it's still trying to get to YouTube.
Okay.
It says redirecting. Hang on, and I should be able to see it.
Mine says it's now streaming live.
Yeah, it's just coming up now. I'm just seeing it now.
Oh, okay. Dave's looking at it from the viewer side.
Yeah, I'm looking at both sides. So hang on. Start the recording and then we can start, John.
Okay, just
there you go.
I'm going to share my screen, which is the well, where did it go? This one. Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yes, I can see it.
Yep.
Okay, so our meeting is properly noticed. This was published in the paper.
Good. And so I can proceed, Dave?
Yep, we're ready to go.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. I call the January Guam Board of Accountancy meeting to order. Present are board members Taling Taitano, Todd Smith, Jenny Chu, and myself, and also Executive Director Dave Sanford. We do have one guest today. Let me see if I'm seeing everyone. Yeah, one guest today. And so welcome, Professor or Dr. Ray Johnson. Thank you for joining us joining us in our board meeting. We're really happy to have you here. Very sorry that we're unable to, I guess, have some dinner. Some dinner tonight. I mean, it was, you know, if it was only like 200 cases, 300 cases, maybe, but, you know, it jumped to 815 just last night, unfortunately. But so, you know, I think for a variety of reasons, you know, of course, it's prudent, but there's been a lot of cases, close contacts within our companies, our respective offices. So we really don't know how it's being spread, or maybe we do, but hopefully it'll be better next week. And then we can actually get together and meet you for the first time. I think some of us have met you, but not all of us. So,
yeah, John, it's good to see you again. I've met you at NASPA meetings, and I extend my welcome to all the Board of Accountancy members. Thank you for bringing us here. My wife and I are really looking forward to the semester. I've already met my first class, and
nice.
We're off and running.
You saw the enemy, and it was us.
It's just fine. I've got a good group of students.
That's good.
Nice. Very nice. Okay. Okay. So moving on to business, we'll start off with the first order of business, which would be the minutes.
Okay.
The last time we met was back in December, right?
Yeah, December the 2nd.
Okay.
Everybody can see, but
I mean, so Dave is showing the agenda, but I think Arlene sent it out. So hopefully you've had time to review the minutes or read the minutes.
I did. I didn't find anything wrong with them. So
I move the minutes be approved.
Second.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Tolling. So minutes from the December's meetings have been approved. Next item. Do you want to go old business?
Yeah, John, I changed it up a little bit, but it'll be old business first, but I want to do the GBO case with Looming New.
Okay, sure.
First. That's the end of the case. This is the email we all got from Happy Ron's, the hearing counsel, or I'm not sure what we called her anyway. But she's saying that the 60-day time period to reconsider the board's decision is lapsed, and the 30-day time period for her to seek judicial review in Superior Court lapsed. So at this point, the board's decision is final, and that decision was where we disciplined her to the extent that she's suspended from taking the exam for 5 years and all of her previous grades were voided. So just for the record, I can say that we never received any communication from her whatsoever. After the initial communication requesting the hearing, she didn't show for the hearing and she never responded to any of our correspondence or the decision. So that's all we know, but at least the case is finally closed after a year and a half almost.
Yeah.
Okay, move on unless anybody has any questions about that.
Well, no, just a comment. I think one thing we learned is that it's a very expensive and tedious process to prosecute cheaters. So we definitely need to emphasize strongly to our candidates that there are significant ramifications and they really need to avoid doing this.
Yeah, the decision was actually posted on our website and was also forwarded by NASMA to all of the other 54 jurisdictions. So all of the executive directors received a copy of that decision, so everybody knows. And the AICPA also. So I believe they'll probably use it to some extent and reinforcing that same concept. The other thing we learned from this case was that we definitely need to rewrite our law and rules to some extent to make this process a whole lot more tenable than it is today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
According to our AG rep, Attorney Weinstein, he's got some ideas on how to do that, which I'm going to pursue with him over the next few months. So, and I think the best way to get that done with the rule change is actually to write it in a bill and have the legislature pass it as a rule subject to the AAA. But following the AAA process would take longer than actually getting the legislature to pass the bill. So that's something I'll be working on in the next 3 to 4 months. Okay, after that, I'd like to go to the Guam Accountancy Endowment Fund update. This is the typical value over time display that we get. And this is the page that shows us from December 31st to January 14th, 2022, which shows that we lost 95,000. But as everybody knows, the market goes up, the market goes down. But we started with December 31st with a market value of 4.752 million. So that's the result of our $1 million contribution in December. And on the next page, you'll see that as of December 31st, this is the actual annual statement they put out, which I'm using in place of the 2 monthly November, December statements. Shows our total contribution for the year of 1.3 million. And we had fees of 36,000, so which is actually not very bad, but our year-to-date performance was a little over 11%. Annualized since inception to date, we've got 8.88%, which is 2 points higher than almost 3 points higher than our plan. Our investment plan is based on a 6% overall. So we're still doing well in that regard. And, you know, like I said, the market goes up 300 points today and down 300 tomorrow and up and down 1,000 points in the last couple of weeks. But all in, I think we're okay. So unless anybody has any questions about the fund, we can move on from there.
No questions for me.
Okay.
Nice picture, guys.
Yeah. It's we're getting there. We do have another 250,000 TCD that's maturing in May, and I intend to contribute that also into the fund, and it'll earn a hell of a lot more than the 0.3% that it's earning in the TCD. So that should put us over the 5 million mark. So, and at that point, I think we should be earning enough on an annual basis to have Ray come back every semester, or maybe just move to Guam. So. But alas, I think he has other commitments for next semester. It's called family visits, right, Ray?
You got that.
Yeah. This is the new licensee reimbursement policy that we've been talking about for a while, and I went over everything that the attorney had to tell me about what we needed to do to make it a viable policy and then ultimately into a rule. So what he's saying is it has to have some substantial connection to the imparting the good to the public in Guam. So this first section under purpose is essentially demonstrating that fact that, you know, the board is charged with, you know, promoting reliability and all that good stuff, the financial statements, and being sure that the people we license are qualified. The public interest requires protecting the public interest requires competency and accountancy, and that's what we're charged with ensuring. So, in the sense that our candidates have a substantial commitment of time and resources, once they get licensed, they're authorized to practice actually anywhere within the 55 U.S. jurisdictions under mobility. So the intent of this policy is to license them, to incentivize them to become Guam licensees and stay on Guam and practice in our Guam business community. So that's the changes I've made since the last time we discussed this, is more of a preamble to demonstrate the substantial connection to the good of the public in Guam. The scope is relative to who would qualify, and we've changed that to a Guam resident holding a bachelor's degree or higher with a major in accounting from an accredited institution acceptable to the board. So essentially, it doesn't matter where they get their degree as long as they have one that's accredited. They have to sit for and pass the exam as a Guam candidate, not transferred from another jurisdiction. They have to qualify, apply for, and be issued an active Guam CPA license. So that's the requirements we put in the active license requirement.
Good license,
and
okay.
If everybody, whoever qualifies would be eligible for reimbursement up to $1,500 based on submitting receipts for their expenses, i.e. Exam prep courses, exam fees, things like that, directly related to their cost of obtaining licensure. Then I went to the procedure, which is pretty much unchanged from previously. Basically, it's just an applicant has to submit an application. We have yet to build the application form, which we'll do once the AG kind of signs off on this. Then we went to terms and definitions, and I took a lot of this from something that our attorney sent me relative to how California handles the determination of residency for tuition, i.e., you know, non-resident tuition versus resident and people becoming residents. So number one, we require the active license. So they have the definition of that, which comes straight out of the law. Then number two, we had to define domicile or residence. So I took this out of the California determination or handbook or whatever you want to call it, their policy, Board of Regents policy from University of California. And being is that a lot of Guam law is based on California law, at least the way I understand it from the attorneys. I think this will fly. So, but domicile or residence, a person's permanent place of dwelling with the intent to remain where there's a legal relationship between the person and a locality. In other words, you can only have one real domicile, or also referred to as residence. And a person who would move to Guam and fails to sever ties with their previous domicile and like they're still maintaining their house back in the States, or, you know, that kind of thing, that wouldn't meet the definition of residency for this policy. And then residency requirements, they also come out with a concept of standards of physical presence and intent needed to establish residency. So the determination principles are essentially the board confers residency to applicants who fulfill the requirements. The requirements for the residency for the purpose of this policy is specific to the board and this policy. In other words, this whole phrase here restricts the determination of residency strictly to the board determining it for the purposes of this policy. It can't be contested because residency for some other rule or law in Guam is defined differently. So this strictly limits the determination of residency for the purposes of this policy. Then you have something called residency classification, which essentially is determining somebody is a resident. And in order to do that, the applicant must have established a primary and permanent domicile in Guam for at least 1 year immediately prior to application, and fulfilled the physical presence and intent requirements also. In other words, residency can only be established by the union of physical presence and intent. Either one alone is insufficient. That all comes straight out of the California policies. So the physical presence is defined as objective evidence of a permanent domicile and physical presence in Guam on a continuous basis for a period of at least 1 year immediately before the application. Coming here solely for education or work purposes doesn't constitute establishing residency, and absences exceeding 8 weeks in total during the 1 year period before application would be deemed to not have fulfilled this requirement. So in other words, you can't say, I've been here a year, but you've been gone 8 weeks out of the year. So that's the presence part. The intent part is the applicant must establish legal ties to Guam through acquisition of all applicable government evidence of intent, as well as establishment of other Guam evidence of intent. Further, any and all ties to the past place of residency must have been severed at least 1 year prior to application. So an applicant who takes steps but whose activities and circumstances suggest temporary or indeterminate residence will not be considered as having Guam residency. So the required government evidence is essentially driver's license, car registration, income tax returns, and voter registration. All of which are with Guam. In other words, you have to relinquish your old driver's license wherever you lived before, and you can't have your car still registered to where you came from, that kind of thing. The other evidence would be your place of business or employment is Guam based. Your physical residence where your permanent possessions are kept is Guam based. Your presence of your family essentially as applicable. And then your Guam residence is the address of record on all legal matters for you, such as tax returns, bank accounts, etc. If you're taking out loans, then you're doing it based on Guam residence, not the residency in another state. Same thing for benefits. So that kind of locks it down, I think, as much as we really want or can legally, I should say.
Hey, Dave. I'm not sure if it's somewhere in there, but what about workers that come to Guam on foreign work visas? So we do get people from Philippines, from Japan, coming here to work for some of the CPA firms on H-1B. These are non-immigrant visas, 3 years terms, and then they can renew for another 3 years. But while during their time here, they are studying for the exam and they're passing. So in other words, they do qualify to sit for the exam. Now, how are they viewed in this? If they pass, get their license, they can definitely be receiving a test license. But will they be able to receive this award, or are they considered non-residents?
They would be considered non-residents if they're still on the immigrant visa or the work visas,
Okay.
H-1B or even H-2, any work visa or student visa. They would have to have, and I read there's, the California thing goes through about 19 different visa types. So I thought about putting it in, but I left it out at this point until we have the AG review it. But
Okay.
the bottom line is that I think they would actually have to have a permanent residence card.
Okay. Now, let's say after 6 years, they get their permanent residence card. Can they then apply for this benefit?
I wouldn't think so, because it wouldn't be a new licensee.
Okay. Would that be a new license?
So I mean, we don't address that specifically yet, and I'm not sure exactly how to address that.
I mean, it gets complicated. It looks like what they would have to do is not get their green card, or not apply, not study and pass the exam until they get their green card, and then apply and pass.
Well, they could study and pass the exam. They just, if they wanted to become a Guam licensee to qualify for the policy, then they would have to show that they have permanent residence.
Okay. Yeah. So just study for the exam while they're here, pass it, just don't apply for an active license until they become a green card holder. Sorry, I'm just trying to field the questions I'm going to be getting.
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking about. So I kind of limited this to doing the residence thing, and that we can't do citizenship thing. The attorney says that's a no-no. So,
okay.
But we can do the residency thing, and we can restrict it to permanent residence. I think we have to make it clear what kind of visa is considered a permanent resident. But so it gets a little more detailed. But then we could restrict it to being licensed within the last 2 years, 5 years, whatever. That kind of thing. But I don't know if we want to. I don't know if we want to do that or not. So.
Okay.
Anyway, those are questions I still have. I wanted to get this out and then get it to the AG to see what he has to say about this before we start adding more details.
Yeah, sure.
So, but are there any other questions anybody has?
Oh, I didn't see how far back. I mean, when does this take effect?
Well, that's the other thing. We haven't put an effective date on it. So,
okay.
We've only had, I think, maybe 2 people that got licensed in the past year or 2 that would actually probably qualify at this point. So,
now there might be more, Dave. You just got to take a look closely, because I think just in my firm there might be a couple at least.
Well, there's 2 or 3, but I'm not sure they all qualify in terms of residence. So, but we have to find out.
Yeah. Okay. You're right.
I'd have to go back and look. But I know that there's at least 2 people that are, have been Guam residents that would easily qualify, that were licensed in the last 12 to 18 months, I guess. But we can put whatever effective date on it we wanted to, I guess. I mean, if you wanted to make it somewhat retroactive, but the bottom line is to encourage people to stay here. So
yeah, my main concern with this was that when we first started talking about this, it might have been 5 years ago, and I know there were some candidates that passed that we sort of indicated that they would qualify, and that was quite a long time ago. So
yeah, actually I think it was about 3 or so years ago. But the initial one that they came up with was people that were passing the exam, but then I had to make them understand that we weren't talking about passing the exam. We were talking about actually getting licensed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
That's kind of where we're at. We could make it retroactive. I mean, it just depends on the decision of the board. I mean, how far back we might want to go once we get the legalities straightened out. So.
Okay. I mean, we'll look at the statistics and then we can decide from there.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second, please.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So let my grandson in.
That's what I figured. The grandkids.
Yeah. Okay.
At least they're not crying in the background, you know. I mean,
No, not yet anyway. Hopefully we won't hear him.
That's my problem when I'm meeting from home.
Yeah, well, it's going to get worse because the Catholic schools just went to remote learning for the next 2 weeks.
Mm.
So we're going to have him here every day starting next Monday.
Oh.
Anyway, that's basically all I have on old business. So I'll take this draft of the policy with your comments, John, and add some notes to it, and then send it to the AG's office and see what they have to say. And if Rob basically says that from a legal perspective it's okay, then I think we can embellish it with the other things we're talking about and get a final draft on it. So.
Okay.
But I kind of want to get him to sign off on it. You know, this is all based on the information I got from Joe, our attorney. And now I want to have Rob sign off on it from the AG's perspective. And once they do that, I think we'll be pretty well home free. So that's where I'll go with it next. Okay. So then we just move to the new licensees. There's a lot of them. There's another 93. And I'll just scroll through them here. There's one applicant from Guam. Can find her here. Yeah. Marielle Oklima.
Yeah. Tax.
Works for you? Yeah.
Well, she did. She was part of the Great Resignation.
Uh-oh. What was the Great Resignation? What happened there?
Well, no, in 2021, there was a great number of people resigning. So
yeah.
Not just in Guam, but across the nation.
Really?
So
really deciding to do other things, huh?
I'm trying to recall where she went.
Yeah.
Maybe Gov Guam.
Yeah, I don't know. A lot of them do go to Gov Guam. So, yeah. So, anyway, we've been through all of them. There's actually 93. We added one. I added one at the bottom here, which is also an initial certificate inactive. So, so unless anybody has any issues,
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay.
Second by okay. Thank you. Approved for the applications for certifications and licenses.
That's good. I appreciate that. Then that's another 93 licenses we've issued. So this is two requests for extensions, and one is Fazlur Riemann, if that's pronounced correctly. His problem is that he applied to take the exam under our pre-education completion policy, so that he has to finish his education in the university course he was taking. He's in India, and he was ready to take his exam, and they postponed the exams, and now he's not going to get any grades until sometime after you know, the 18-month window for him to pass the exam expires. So he's asking, is it possible for us to extend that window until he gets the grades can take the exam and get the grade for his exam. So that's what the issue is for him. And he's the only one so far that has this problem, but I don't know what else to do about it. It's definitely not something of his own making. He's, done everything that he should have done correctly. So in that sense, I don't see any issue with actually postponing it until he gets the grades or gets his course credits, and then we can go from there. Excuse me 1 second, please.
So this guy passed all 4 parts of the exam?
Are you muted, Dave?
Dave? Hello?
Dave probably mute. It seems like he did. He just hasn't completed his education, I think. Passed all 4 parts.
Okay.
What does it mean until
Yes,
exams?
he was supposed to get his degree sometime last year.
Yeah.
Dave, are you back?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I had just asked the question. I said, I see he passed all 4 parts of the exam, and but hasn't graduated yet. Is that the deal?
Well, yeah, under the pre-completion education completion, he took the exam before he finished. He was in a course to finish. He passed all 4 parts of the exam, and he basically finished the course, but then the university, and it's in India, postponed the exams. So the exam he was supposed to take in last year, and
this is not the CPA exam. This is an exam for graduating.
Right, his university exam.
Okay.
So his course, he completed the course, but before they gave the exams, they postponed his university exam. And they said, "Oh, we're going to have it in late, 2 or 3 months later, in like December." And then they postponed it again to this month, January, and then they just postponed it again this month. So he's like, I don't know when I'm going to be able to get my grades, because they said the grades won't be issued for 6 months after the exam. So he's basically done everything he's supposed to have done. He's completely passed the exam. Now he's at the mercy of the university, given the exam and given the grade. So he's like, what can I do? So, it's the first time we've ever faced this issue. And, to his credit, he's done everything he was supposed to do. So I don't know. I don't have any issues with giving him until the point in time where they authorize the exam and issue his grade. He even got a letter from his professor that said, I'm confirming that, we're waiting to give the exams and issue the grades. And we can't do that until the university decides to let us do it. So,
Yeah.
Do we want to provide a date and then have them come back if that date passes? I'm just wondering if we should make it June 2022 or December
well,
2022.
yeah, I was kind of thinking about making it June 30th and let's see what happens, because all of the other people that are having issues with notice of schedules and credit expirations and things, we've basically told them, NASBA's doing the processing, but we've told them we'll extend you through June 30th, 2022. And at this point, that's the end of those extensions, because you're talking about NTSs that they paid for almost 2 years ago, and we're still extending. So we can't extend that forever. And some of it is, most of them is, well, we can't travel because of this, that, or the other. But in some cases, they can. So, but I'm thinking we can give him 6 months till June 30th, and tell him he has to report back and tell us where things stand. So.
Good idea.
At this point, I'm suggesting that's the best way to go. I don't think we can just shut him down, because none of the issue is his fault. So he's done everything he's supposed to have done. You know.
Agree.
So I can do that. We'll extend him as education completion is what we're extending. And we'll just extend that date for him until June 30th and see what happens. On Ajitesh Garrig, he was set to take the exam and he got diagnosed with dengue fever. So,
Where does he live?
He's I'm thinking he's in India too. Hang on.
India. Okay.
Yeah, he's in India. He has a bunch of doctor stuff here. So,
New Delhi.
Yeah, somewhere down there. He's here. Let's see where his doctor is. New Delhi. Yeah. So he's like, I treated him. He's got rash. We didn't want to see the pictures.
Come on.
but basically, he's saying his, I went too far. Okay. He has BEC credit that expired in December 31st, and his other credit goes until March 31st. I think he has FAR or audit credit also. So he was asking to go until later, but we decided that, well, his audit or his other section, the credit expires in March. So we figured let's extend him to March. He was registered to take the exam in December, and the week before he was registered to take the exam is when he got the dengue fever. The doctor told him stay home for like 2 weeks and, don't go infect everybody else. So he wound up not taking his exam. He's saying, I think, that he feels like he can take it before March 31st when the other credit expires. So I don't have an issue with extending him as BEC credit to March 31st. And that way he either takes the other 2 sections and passes, or he loses his credit. So,
Yep.
So no.
Okay. It's fine, Dave.
Okay. So we'll move on from that. Okie doke. Next thing we go to is the budget request. Okay, just so you know, we get our requests from our oversight senator, Joe S. Sanagosin, and they want 17 printed copies. 17 printed copies, because they have to give one to every senator plus the file. And then they still want it on CD or DVD or whatever, in Word and Excel, and then they still want it in PDF on a separate CD. So that's what they're asking for. So this is basically what I've come up with. Given that we have no test center revenues, so we're down from the 400,000, actually 500,000 in 2018, all the way down to zero now. But we're still surviving. So exam application fees, I'm projecting that we'd go to the 125,000, which was our actual for 2021. And I think it'll be a little more than that for fiscal 2022. But I'm being conservative on the 125,000 for FY23. I think it's reasonable. I'll show you the projection in a minute. Certification fees, which are the initial license fees, is 135,000, which was the same as we had for FY22. The individual licensing fees, which are renewal fees, I'm projecting at 270. We have a budget this year of 260. Last year we had 301. So based on the fact that we have approximately 60% renewal of the new licensees from every previous year, we seem to be doing reasonably well there. So hoping that the travel restrictions get lifted, we'll wind up with more in FY 2023. But I think the 270 is reasonable. 7,000 for firm licensing fees, and then I never budget the penalties and miscellaneous fees and interest. That would leave us with 537 for revenue. Then on the expenses, the admin services contract, that's my contract in total. And that's based on the current rate. So the only change would be relative to the wage determination rates, if that changes. Copier service is the same. The only thing I changed, I figured if we got the reimbursement policy started, we could reimburse 10 new licensees at 1,500 each. That would be the 15,000. I think that's a reasonable estimate, given that we usually have less than two or three a year at the most that would qualify in terms of Guam candidates and Guam residents. The other dues is the NASBA dues. Basically, the 16,000 is covered in it's 14 some, I think. And then the website, I'm hoping to do something with renewing licenses to make it easier. Although it's still difficult to find a system that costs less than 800,000 to all of the boards I talk to, even the ones that have 5,000 or 10,000 licensees, are paying $600,000-800,000 for their licensing system, or they're paying $4,000 or $5,000 a month, and I don't think we should do either at this point. There has to be an easier way. So I'm still looking for it. But the office space, budgeted the same. I don't see the rate changing. Supplies, the same as our FY22, which is based on 2019. And the small equipment, I put 20,000 because I'm adding some money for the video streaming if we decide we want to go that way. I'm not sure we want to, but we can if we budget for it. And then the credit card charges, I'm thinking, are going to be about 16,000 based on volume. So postage is our biggest expense down here because of the foreign licensees, and the more we get initial licenses, we have to send them their certificates, etc. So the training is down to 7,500. That's actually training the employees in the purchasing modules that are required, and whatever else they come up with at this point. Of course, nobody's been able to go anywhere to do anything. So
did you has everybody gone to that ethics training Are you guys required to do
Uh,
that? Guam
yeah,
is.
we
Yeah.
all did that.
Last year.
All the board members did that late last year. So
And
when
GovGuam
BG,
employees, all GovGuam employees are also required to do that.
uh,
But I don't know if your folks are considered employees.
they're not GovGuam employees.
Yeah.
They're my employees, so they don't fall
You don't
under
have
that.
to.
The
Okay.
board members did, and I did as executive director. So, but not the employees. But this is relative to the procurement modules.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get they're taking them as they can take them, but they come here and there, and then they fill up really fast. So
Yeah.
but I think all of them have taken at least one. Jessica, I think, had two, so we need to have some more of that there. And it's usually, I think, a couple $100 per module per person. So, of course, then I took out the contribution that we've been budgeting annually, and that's what this 300, because it's based on the 2019 budget for expenses. But I took that out, of course, because we will have contributed practically, most of our excess funds already. So that would leave us at 497 versus 537, so about 40,000 in excess revenues, and I think that's reasonable. We will have put our about 1.5 million into the endowment fund at that point, so we'll be okay. This is kind of hard to see, so I can zoom it. Let's see, zoom to, let's say 90%, maybe more. That better? I'll look at pieces. Okay, so with the paid applications, prior to 2019 or 2020, when we were processing it, we kept track, but all of this was by sections. So these are actually sections, not applicants. But then in 2019, when NASWA took over processing, they process their tracking by applicants. And this again, I kind of kept it by applications. So the first time they came up was 5 and 7, and now FY20 we basically had the 3,400 applicants, and it's gone up to 45 to projection. My projection based on what we've done through October and November of FY22 is it's increasing substantially. So I'm looking at the fact that on a 3-year average, we had 4,500, and it's split between first time and re-exam, because we get we get double the money on the first time applicants, and then we get half on the re-exam applicants. So the split that I come up with, a total of 4,600 with this split, which I think is reasonable. And that's what basically drives us to over here, the 3-year average versus 5-quarter actual average for the 4,600 applicants at an average revenue of $27 a piece after the NASBA expenses gives us 126,000. So that's where my 125,000 comes from. I think that's reasonable. I'm hoping we'll exceed that, but I think it's reasonable if we consider where we are today with the pandemic, travel restrictions, all that stuff, and we're still getting this basic good flow of applications.
Dave, these are exam applications that are being taken in other countries, but applying as Guam candidates.
They're applying as Guam candidates, and then previously, I guess most of them are probably, well, I shouldn't say most, I don't know. Most of our applicants are probably Japanese and Chinese.
Okay.
The Koreans apply elsewhere and then come to Guam and sit in the test center, but they're not Guam candidates.
Okay.
Most of our candidates are Guam candidates, but they're sitting elsewhere. Yes, a lot in Japan, a lot in the Middle East,
Okay.
and then some all over the states. So, if
All right.
you look at the exam sections we had for FY21, basically we collected fees for 45 paid exams, and there was 136 taken, and the reason for that is the extension of all the NTSs that were previously paid in FY20. And then Randy just gave me some updated statistics that would qualify, but it actually is only another 8 or 10 exams. So in that sense, there's not much to say there. If we look on this side where I did the certificates and licenses averages, we've been tracking these for new licensees versus renewals and reinstatements, and then firm permits. The firm permits are always holding right around 20, 27, 28 to 30. A couple of them, they come and go. So that's kind of just where it stands at this point. I rounded it down to, I think, 30 actually here, and one new one and 30 old renewals. The new licensees were picking up well until FY20 hit the wall because of the pandemic, where everybody stopped taking the exam, stopped passing the exam, so they stopped getting licensed. But then 21 picked up a little bit, kind of hung in there, I guess, with the people that kind of finished the exams at the very middle of the pandemic. But the renewals continued to increase, and that's where I was saying that the renewals tend to increase by about 60% of the previous year's new licensees. So we are getting renewals. Of course, some drop out. But that's where I'm saying that my projection based on the 3-year averages and where we stand with the pandemic is 600 new licensees and 2,700 renewals, which I'm reasonably sure we'll meet. FY21 was higher, but I'm anticipating 22 is going to be a little lower because of the fact that in FY21, very few people actually took or passed the exam. At least on an overall basis, the decline that AICPA and NASBA show of 10 to 15% is there. I don't know how much of that's going to affect us, because they say that the international volume stayed about the same or even increased, but it's hard to tell now with the fact that we had, at the beginning of the pandemic, the estimate was that there were 3,000 outstanding NTSs throughout Asia. And today we're only finally extending a couple of hundred of them. So in the last 2 years, a couple thousand of them have gone somewhere. And I don't think they were the ones that passed the exam recently. So I don't know where that's going to go.
Once they
But
pass,
with the say again, please.
Once they pass, wouldn't they always renew? Why would the number be lower?
It's just based on the total. I don't know how many new ones. I could increase it, but I'm reluctant to do that until I understand how many new licensees we're actually going to get for 22. So far, the ones we've gotten are basically the ones that are coming off of the 2021 exam, but I can't figure out, I don't have any real statistics, because we can't tell how many, well, nobody's sitting in the Guam test center, and I don't have any statistics from people sitting in Japan or in Korea, et cetera, to judge by. So the only thing I can go by is with NASBA and AICPA's estimates of volume, but their volume estimates are only relative to people taking the exam, and I don't get enough passing information to know for sure. So I'm being usually CPA conservative. Hoping that if this is too low, that something else I screwed up won't be high enough, and we'll have an offset. So
I get cushion.
yeah, but with the individual fees, I'm saying 270. I mean, we've had 34, 68, and 3. If we get it, great. If we don't, and I know we have a little play here with the penalties. We always have some penalties. Probably less in 22 than we did in 20 and 21, because a lot of people thought that everything was, postponed, but we only postponed it for so long. So anyway, that's kind of where I am. So that gives us the new licenses with the 3-year moving average at 135,000 and the renewals at 270, which is 405, and then the 7,000 to 412, so 537, and I'm thinking we're probably going to come somewhere between 500,000 and 600,000. I just can't quite get a real feel for how much it's going to be low or high. The real problem is that even though the travel restrictions to Guam are relaxed, the Chinese won't come because of the 3-week quarantine when they go home that they have to pay for out of their pocket. So that's kind of where that's coming from. But this was a summary of our exam application processing for FY21. And you can tell it's built. This starts October, November, December of 2020. So it was building, but then it started a little bit of a decrease. So
September.
So for up through September, we August and September we got up to 600-700 or 400 some in terms of applicants and 14,000 in revenues. October and November were in the 12,000 range. So I'm saying that maybe it's leveled out at around 12,000 a month. And if that's the case, then we should be pretty much okay. So, any questions, or have I just confused everybody?
No, it looks like we're recovering from getting closer to pre-COVID.
I think we're hanging in there. We're hanging in there better than I thought we might be, but still hard to tell. I mean, we'd be a whole lot better off if we knew that the Chinese were coming to sit in the test center. So,
yeah, but we need to have the test center open somehow for the local candidates. I mean, albeit there are a few, but we need to have it open somehow so they can test.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll have no local CPAs on island.
Yeah, that's true. It is open. Randy's actually running the test center, and come to find out, they've had anywhere from 50 to 100 people coming to test in the test center. They're just not CPA exams.
Oh, not CPAs. Okay.
They're taking other tests like the nursing. I don't know if it's a nursing test, but they're also taking different kinds of tests, that are not CPA exams. So they are open and they are doing business, although according to NASBA, they're not making any money, but they're staying open. So at this point, we're okay with that. The test center in Korea still only has 24 seats, so it's not like the entire population of Korean candidates can test there anytime soon. So I'm sure if they could come to Guam and go back, more of them would probably like to do that. So I'm hoping that'll happen. This is a financial through December, and I had to estimate the application fees for December, which I estimated at a little under 12,000. So for 3 months, we're looking at basically the 12,000 a month. We did have $840 worth of test center fees for October, November, and December. That represents I don't know, about 15 exams, something like that. Then certification fees are running on an annualized basis will exceed the 135. The license individual fees won't pick up until, March. Everybody starts trying to renew in March, and since the deadline is in June, the 90% of the volume comes between March and June. Same with the firm license fees; those usually come in May and June. And we've already collected 10,000 in penalties, miscellaneous fees, and interest to date. So we're doing okay there. And then if you take a look at take out our $1 million contribution here, then we're essentially about 50,000 to the good, 47,000, 46,000 to the good. So that's based on our 3 months of expenses versus 3 months of revenue. So on the whole, I think we're going to wind up with a surplus. Discounting the contribution, we'll wind up with a somewhat of a surplus, but probably won't be near as much as we'd like it to be. But I'm thinking maybe around 30 to 40,000 by the end of the year, FY22. So expense-wise, we're pretty well on track in that sense. So I think we're under in every category at this point. So that's basically all I have. Here's the November statement is here for anybody who wants to take a look at it. This was the summary of the application processing for October to November. This was the sections for October was 663 and November was 676. So the sections were up a little bit. What matters is the applicants, because the revenue is by applicants. We had 452 in October and 466 in November, which put our revenues right at the averaging 12,000 a month for the revenues, and that's definitely up compared to last year. So we're up over 140 applicants. And in November up 180 applicants. So in that sense, we're recovering. Okay. So the last thing I have, if anybody has any questions, or if nobody has any questions on the financials, last thing I have is the announcement of NASBA's new board of directors. They've added new directors, and everybody can peruse this. The only one of interest to us at this point is Nancy Corrigan. Nancy's the new Pacific Region Director.
Oh, okay.
And she did contact me and said that she wants to attend one of our board meetings virtually. If we're having it virtually. I said, yes, we still are. So she's asked about attending either the July or November meeting. So I told her I'd definitely stay in touch with her to let her know. I did tell her that our meetings are 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and is she able to
11 p.m.
Yeah, well, for her, I think it'd be 10, as long as it's not, 11 on daylight time. You're right. Should be on daylight time. So until in July anyway. But I said, well,
put her to sleep, Dave.
Yeah,
talking about the numbers.
Said, well, we could think about changing the time, to the morning. She said, no, she's up at night anyway. So I said, well, that's okay. That's good.
Yeah. So she took over for Katrina, right? So Katrina rolled off.
Yeah,
and then
Katrina's still on the board. She's not sure what the roving director position is or whatever, but she's still a board member of NASBA, and she's in charge of different committees. But yeah, she rolled off of the Pacific Region Director, and Nancy took her place. And Nancy's the California board. Let me see, I can get down here. So
then I think we pretty much know everybody else.
Yeah. So yeah, Nancy's also the chair of the CBT admin committee, which I'm serving on now. So she's California Board of Accountancy, and August 18, she's became the president in 2019. So yeah, Katrina's director at large, and she's in charge of the CPE committee and standards working group. So yeah. Okay. The only other thing was the quarterly communications, which is the rundown through the board meeting minutes. And so I kind of highlighted everything, and I'm sure you guys can find it interesting bedtime reading if you're interested. But yeah, but it's interesting. NASBA has 82.9% of their employees vaccinated, which kind of goes pretty good with what we have here. They talked about the model curriculum launching and the comments and the transitional policies and the some of the other conferences and things NASBA was participating in. They have the North American Summit comprised of representatives from Canada, Mexico, and the United States was delayed. And they're still having issues with, I think, negotiating or renegotiating some of those MRAs, which of course we never signed on to. The regional meeting was very successful. They're running through IT projects and modernization of the gateway, which is required to be implemented before the evolution of the exam in January 2024. So different sections and grades. And that's according to what I've been told in the executive director meetings, about a $10 million project. So they've already begun working on that. We've also talked about how that would feed into revising the feed we give to the ALD for updating on a nationwide basis. So, we're still in the updates, the CPE audit service tools. So they continue to run updates on that, and they had another one this coming Saturday. So far, we did send out an email to 2,479 actively licensed Guam CPAs that are required to submit CPE. I'm sure most of you got one. It's about uploading your CPE to the CP NASBA system. And surprisingly, I thought that we would get more, but in the I guess tomorrow is a week since we sent the email. I've only had about 15 replies to the email relative to, I don't have an account, how do I set it up? Or I tried to set mine up and I couldn't get access. So we've instructed them on how to go back to NASBA and ask for the new email to set up their account. But at this point, it seems to be working okay. So I thought I'd get a lot more, but I haven't. I've also gotten a few emails from people that said, "Oh, wow, I didn't renew and I didn't report. What do I have to do?" So that email blast was sent out by NASBA for us at no cost to us. So I'm going to continue doing that, and I'm editing the final version of our newsletter that should go out within, I'm hoping within a week. So I just
hey Dave, the newsletter, what about the CCR, Citizen-Centric Report?
Citizen-Centric Report, I'm still working on that one, John.
and so that will be for 2022 or
2020,
for 2021?
No, 2021. Yeah.
21, okay.
Yeah. It's always this year. This year's report is last year's activity. So
Activity,
yeah.
right? Okay.
Yeah, so I'm still working on that one. So
We don't get a separate audit, right? We're part of the government
no,
of Guam audit.
yeah, we're part of the GovGuam audit, and every year they come and ask me for a copy of the bank recon and stuff like that, and I give them our financial statement and my proof of cash bank recon, and they're happy. So
Yeah, I think the CCRs do like 3 months after the audit's issued, something like that.
yes, it was due about 3 months ago, but I'm behind on that one. But I'm getting there.
Are we required to post those online?
We're required to send them to the auditor, a public auditor, and to post it, which I do as soon as we finish it. So we have all our other ones online posted with our financial statements. And,
Okay.
so I have to submit it. We're probably one of about 19 agencies that are behind on submitting. At least we can say that we're up to date through 2020. So the only one we're slow on is 2021. There's a number of agencies that haven't reported anything in the last 2 to 3 years. So the sad part is that I check how many people have actually accessed our CCR that we put online, and there's never more than 10 accesses, and that's typically me or the public auditor checking it.
Sorry, Dave, your 21 report is based on the FY20 financials or the FY21?
No, the report I'm due to do, the CCR that's pending is for FY 2021.
Okay, but because if the audit hasn't been issued, I don't think the GovGuam audit's been issued yet.
No, but I do it because the audit that was issued was the FY20 audit issued in 2021. So, but I typically would do the 2021 report to get it out ahead of time.
Okay.
Because it finishes in September. So
yeah,
I try to get it done. So, but I've been slow on this one. So. The Center for Center, yep. Okay. The Center for Public Trust. They say there's currently 49 student chapters with 4,200 students enrolled. I'm happy to say that Guam has one of those chapters now. So, and Guam Society of CPAs is committed to sponsoring the one student to go to the leadership conference that they have every year, which should start this coming year, I think, if they have it back in person again.
Oh.
So, other than that, I think everything else is pretty much just standard. Not sure that any of it, any of the rest of it really applies too much to us. It's just there for the record and for the reading. We're supposed to have our executive director committee meeting in April in Florida. It's planned to be in person, but they still don't know if it will be or not. So we're waiting for that. Okay. So otherwise, I think this was one of the, maybe this, John, was what you were alluding to. The impact on the profession is a trend toward individuals leaving large firms and going directly into business and industry rather than small firms.
Yeah, correct. Yes.
Yeah, that's probably what you were talking about. And then this is part of the CPA pipeline discussion they had. And then they had another discussion about adding a data reporting mechanism to the gateway. The board noted there's a difference between encouraging candidates to become licensed versus using candidate information for marketing purposes. They're revising the strategic plan based on discussing the role NASWA should play in encouraging individuals to stay in the pipeline. So Not fully sure what they mean by the difference between encouraging versus marketing, but if the AICPA is involved, it's probably more marketing than encouraging. So I never said that. Otherwise, I think everything here is just basically good bedtime reading. This is the recap of the recent things. Okay, well, that's basically all I have. So unless anybody has any questions or anything else for discussion, I think we're good to go.
Okay. I don't have any other items for discussion. I think we'll look next week and then figure out a good timing to have our meet and greet dinner.
Okay, we'll do that. And Ray, if you have anything you'd like to say about your experience with the program so far, we'd be happy to hear it.
You know, at this point, it's been a good experience. One of the classes I intended to teach, this capstone course, we haven't had enough enrollment, so we're trying to see if we can gin up the enrollment for it. So it's questionable whether I'll wind up teaching that class or not. If not, I'm going to wind up working with Doreen and trying to give her a lot of notes and information on what I've done with that class before so that she can carry that on. I met yesterday with my first class. I run a pretty interactive class. I think that took them a little bit by surprise, but at the same time, I got a group of seniors that are motivated. So I think it's going to be a good class. It'll be a good group of students. I'm looking forward to this term.
Okay. That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And at least with the capstone, at least we'll have it. Doreen has something that we can carry forward with.
Yeah, I think she'll have something to carry forward, and it's probably worth having a conversation as well as we look forward to CPA evolution about, just how the curriculum is going to support CPA evolution and the new exam.
Okay.
But that'll come as the term wears on.
Okay. John, you were going to say?
No, yeah, I was just going to ask what courses are you teaching this semester? You were supposed to teach the capstone and then another course?
Yeah, I was supposed to teach the capstone, which was BA 409, and then I'm teaching BA 403, the auditing course.
Auditing course, okay. So what's interesting is I think there are 2 auditing courses in one semester. Is that correct?
There are. There's a night class going. It has 15 students in it, or 5 students in it, I'm sorry. And then I've got 11 students in a day section. The night section's online. Mine is face-to-face. So I've got 11 students in the classroom. I think for them, it feels good to be back in the classroom again.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just surprised that we actually have 2 classes for auditing in the same semester. But apparently, if 15, I guess that's good. It tailors to the nighttime, I guess, crowd, and then of course the daytime preferred crowd. Okay.
Yeah.
I think it was James Quack that's teaching the nighttime class.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good to hear. But Ray, you're teaching with your data analytics focus, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Which I think is something entirely new to University of Guam at this point.
Yeah, so I'll be teaching an auditing class. We've got a chapter on data analytics in the book that I'm teaching out of. Of course, I'm teaching out of my own book.
That helps a lot.
Yeah. So, and I'm looking forward to that. I mean, we'll hit that. Actually, we'll start the data analytics work right after spring break.
Okay. Good deal. Okay, well,
if no other items on the agenda, maybe we adjourn the meeting. Can I hear a motion?
So moved.
Okay, moved by Tolling. Can I hear a second to adjourn?
Second.
There's Todd. Okay, thank you, Todd. So meeting adjourned.
Okay.
And so we'll meet at our next meeting. Hopefully, you know, we're still trying to make it in person, but for now, we'll see.
Okay. Stay safe, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. Have a good evening and a good weekend. I'm going to kill our live stream now.
Bye.
Okay,
See you
bye
all
everyone.
later.